in rank.
Yeah.
Kind of that stealth move. I love seeing that.
The question I have, if O'Neill had this like incredibly whatever, like Rain Man skill to pick stocks and
that's a good way to put it.
plow into like just, like one name. My question to you is, did you pick up on like 2 or 3 secrets of what he used, like nuances to figure out? I know, Irusha, you said, he maybe test with a whole bunch of stuff, but did you pick up any sort of nuances of what led him into that name?
Yeah. And it's a lot.
Can you share them?
It's going to make you guys happy because there's a lot of what you guys talk about. And I've watched all of your rants. I love them. I'm such a huge fan. I just want to say that, and I thank you guys so much for having us on the show. It's just
thank you.
It's a ball. And I honestly, I wish we hadn't been like plugging stuff. That was not our intent.
No, I don't get a
dime.
I want to get into psychology though.
I want to plug more. So Mike, stop plugging.
Well, you might get a dime. I don't.
Irusha's
Give me a dime, and then I'll.
Yeah.
So look, I plug something if I'm a fan of it. So go get an AC/DC album. So
right.
to answer your question, and I saw it in real time, he wouldn't necessarily know that much about the stock that when he would buy it. But if he bought the stock and it was working, then what he would do, and by working meaning not testing the 10-week, because he didn't really use daily charts for individual stocks. He used daily charts for the indexes, but not for individual stocks. So if it was holding the 10-week, he's just gradually increasing his position. And as it's doing that, if it's holding the 10-week for the first move, then he's researching it and learning. What most people do is when they're down on a stock, then they're like, oh, I want to learn about it. I want to listen to a conference call. I'm down 15%.
Call, get on a chat
it's like,
room.
give me a break, man. But he would learn if it was working, then what would happen is, let's say he started with 8 stocks or 6 stocks. He would slowly sell off stocks. And I call it a source of funds. You're looking for your lower quality stock to sell to buy into your best one. And it was over time. And one of the last times, I kind of had a conversation with him. I was like, why have I not been able to do what he's done as far as just plow into a stock 200% long and ride it for the whole move? And he said, the key that most people don't get is you don't do it quickly. You do it over time and you focus on your cushion. And so that's where the weekly comes into play. He would look at interdays. He'd call me up and say, Mike, look at the 5-minute on this. He was reading the tape, but he wasn't making his big decisions off that. He was using the weeklies. And so he would learn about the company. Did it have a moat around it? Who was the CEO? He'd get to know that. He would have our teams write about them, the IBD writers write stories about them. And that's really what IBD was or is. It was just a hobby shop for him to do the research. He wasn't reading broker reports, never saw him do that, but he would have them write a story so he could understand, hey, this is what eBay does. It's a garage sale online and it's helping out all these people, and then just keep building and building the position. And no one could read a weekly chart the way he could. So he would see when there's danger ahead. And so a lot of it was going back to why you guys would like it. It was price action. Like, price doesn't lie. If the stock wasn't acting right, it didn't matter if he fell in love with it. He just out it went. So he could hold his winners, and that's a hard thing to do when you're piled into a stock. At least for me, it is. It's very difficult.
Mike, quickly talk about how Bill would analyze like a weekly chart, a weekly base, because that was one of the most priceless things watching him do that in presentations and things like that. He'd go bar by bar on the weekly chart and look at every bar. Okay, where's the volume? How did it close that week?
That's the key.
That's the kind of detail that
break down every weekly bar.
Yeah. Pull up any stock, and we'll go through it, because you're right. And this is, and we did so many projects together on this where we would just plan out, like, if this happened, it's a +1. If this happens, it's a -1. And
I'll pull up like Microsoft Weekly.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so what you're doing is when you're looking at a base, you're starting with your first week down off your closing high. So look at that most recent cup.
Like here or here?
No, let's go with this one. Yeah, that one there.
Okay, that one.
So that's the beginning of your base. And as you go through it, it would be really helpful. I know MarketSmith has annotation tools, but so I don't really like them. So I would print it off, and I would take 2 colored pens. I would take a red pen and a blue pen. And anything that you see positive, mark it up with a red pen. Anything negative, mark it up with a blue pen. Now, he didn't do the different colored pens, but that's what worked for me for how he would analyze this. So the first week down, what is it telling you?
It's down on lighter volume than the previous week, but it's still holding its 10-week.
Okay. So exactly. So it's no big deal. So you don't even have to mark it with a pen because it's just a down week, a bottom closing week. So no big deal. Now the next week, what does that week tell you?
It broke below the 10-week on some pretty heavy volume. So it lost institutional support and it was huge distribution.
Put the track price on there. And let's look at the closing range.
You might need to turn on the pattern recognition too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you do for that. I forgot for that.
So yeah, when you turn on the pattern recognition.
No, but here's the track price.
So okay, do you see where it says closing range? So what that is within the bar itself, from the high to the low, if the bar is at 100, at the top, it's going to register as 100 closing range. If it's at the bottom, it's 0.
The range of the whole bar.
The range of the bar. So where that hash mark is, where did it close?
44%. Okay.
Yeah, and so the studies were that if it was 40% or higher on a down week, that was actually supporting action. So at first glance, you look at that and you're like, "Oh my God, that's
I'm writing that down."
That's and what he would call it, and it was heavy volume without further price progress on the downside, and so that's a down week with 40% or higher, sometimes 38, but really 40%. So now you're marking that with a blue pen because you're saying, wow, this is actually good. It's support. And so what that means is by the end of the week, the big funds are in there supporting it because they've got hundreds of thousands or millions of shares and they can't go to cash. Which stocks do they want to hold and which ones do they not want to? Now we go to the next week. We won't go
really quick. Does breaking through the 10-week negate all that? Does it matter where in other words, it's below the 10-week, it's lost support?
Yes and no. Toggle over. Just pull up the NASDAQ composite real quick. 0 NDQC.
Comp. Okay.
And look what happened that week. So you're
29,
always looking
29% in range.
Yeah.
So relative to that, Microsoft was better.
Always relative. Now, let's go back to Microsoft.
And 40 or higher was good. Intuitively, I would think 50 or 70 or higher would be like a cutoff, but what the hell do I know? But 40 or higher was good. I
mean, that is something that he started coming up with probably before the two of us were born. All of us were born.
Okay.
So the next week, and we'll stop. We'll just do 2 weeks, and then you'll get the picture. This week, what do you guys think about it? Tom, how does that week look to you?
That's an inside week. This the third week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right here, Tom. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
It's an inside week. It looks like it's below 40% though, because it closes right at the exact same point. So for me, I don't like it. That's a more negative bar to me than the preceding bar, simply because it's closing lower in the range. It looked like it tried to bust up through the high. It failed. It came all the way down, and now it's just kind of settling. I'd want to look inside the daily to kind of get an understanding a little bit more what that bar looks like, but that's just my personal opinion, having those 2 bars and it not being able to recover in any sort of meaningful fashion.
So yeah, we're somewhere in here, right?
So, and this is what's great about chart reading, because it's an art and everyone's going to see it differently. And I'll just tell you how Bill would see it and how I see it, is that the fact that it closed almost unchanged from week to week was a sign of accumulation. What you pointed out, the fact that it was an inside week, was a sign of accumulation, because what it's saying is there's no new price discovery there, that it's not going to a higher low. It's within it, and the big players, always just put yourself in the mindset of the guys and girls running 50, 100 billion. What are they doing?
They're holding the line.
They're not letting
tight week on lighter volume than the previous week.
Yeah. So you do that throughout the rest of the base. If we did it for the rest of the base, we would be here until midnight. So that's his.
We might be here till midnight anyway at the rate we're going.
So that's the week by week.
Tom's heating up dinner and he's set a smoke.
Irusha asked me. He knew what he was setting me up
that was a mistake. But,
that was a setup.
No, that's okay.
I want to get into the detail he's looking at. But and that's
I mean,
how it picks
that's
up on the
awesome because I don't look at any of that shit.
Yeah.
I love you, man. That's great.
I just look at it and go, nah, I don't like it. But it's just it's because you've looked at so many patterns over so many years, and you just
so
kind of
you're breaking down every weekly bar.
But for those small amount, right? So he's going through tons, or all of us were going through tons. Yes, no, 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 yes, kind of like what Tom is talking about. But now when you come with those handful of charts, now you're looking more at the details and trying to grade them like Mike has been talking
Mike,
about.
you make a great point because they can't go to cash. So where as a smaller player, we can, where because they can't, you're getting a feel for what they're holding on to, what they're supporting, and what they're what they're not getting rid of.
And it's more important with the big liquid names. That's why I was saying there's a difference with the EVER and a Microsoft, because you've got different players in there, and like what Tom was saying earlier, like they can't make a meaningful position there. They're playing the whole group, so they might not be in there supporting it.
Okay, so I want to get into psychology and music really quick before we finish, but I want to do one more chart because now I want to pick your brain. One of our friends did a stock picking contest, and you picked DXCM.
Let me first extend an apology to all the ADD people like me out there who've been with us for an hour and a half.
I'm sorry, man. I babble on, dude.
This is like every day.
You're not talking any more than anybody else.
This is like IBD Live with swears in it. It's perfect. That's all we're doing.
Smokes.
So really quick. So DXCM, I just want to pick your brain. Like you gave this, I think you said you were deciding between this one and Tesla. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I chose it correctly, and I own both of them, but you know, it really when you're picking for a contest like that, the cheesy way to do it, in my opinion, would be to and I got a lot of flack for it, was just pick a $5 biotech that maybe you get lucky on.
It's a contest. You're going for the moon, but you're talking about, let's just say you're picking it from a institutional point of view. Obviously, it's got the great earnings and sales growth. Obviously, we're all stuck at home shoveling food in our face and going to die of diabetes. So I get why, diabetes is big. But
look at those numbers, people. Look at those. Those are so sexy.
$35 billion market cap company. Anyways, I'm asking Mike. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, so the point is, let's go to the weekly and to what Tom was saying.
I keep forgetting you go to weekly.
It's about the numbers and exactly what he was saying, and it's also about the concept of they are the leader in their space, and that goes to your other question about what was unique about Bill. So in picking the right stock, there's Tandem, there's Pod, and there's this one. And we know that this one was the best one for the year. But at the beginning of the year, I was just putting my Bill hat on and saying, from that mindset, what would be, the best one, the quality one. And then there was, then the Tesla was my other one. But that one carries so much more risk. It's almost binary. It was going to be the biggest one, or thing was going to flop. And so this was more of a
responsible institutional pick.
Yeah, and look, it's picture perfect the way it's come down.
It trades more responsibly, quite honestly. I mean, I mean, it's not.
Do you trade this, Tom? Do you trade Dexcom?
Some. I've been in and out of it a couple of times.
What did you trade today? I'm curious.
AMD.
AMD. I actually traded Love.
Oh, wow. Let's pull that up.
All I did was play the earnings.
Oh, LOV. I pulled up Southwest Airlines.
LOVE.
Okay.
Who's Irusha talking to? See, he's got people that are waiting for him too.
I tell you, girls want to be with him.
More pressured now.
He's having text. He's like, I'm sick of you guys. I'm texting all these.
It was just
getting.
They had good earnings. They've got good sales growth. They were getting gapped up. It's a thin stock. You could tell it was going to do a lot of volume today. Just based on the way a lot of the other ones went, I waited for it to pull back into the old high. I had some orders in there, and
so let's go to the intraday on that, so you can walk us through your thought process, because I'm very interested in how you would have played that.
Here's the 5 minutes starting the day.
Draw a line across the old high of yesterday's high.
Okay,
gotcha.
So that's kind of my over/under limit. And
makes sense.
There's sort of what I'm looking at, and I was watching it pre-market, and it was up in the 21, even got up as high as 22 and a half, I think. And so I'm kind of like, okay, so it's already been there. And typically they want to at least run back up there and see what's there once the market opens. So I'd like to be able to see if I can catch this under 21 with a stop around 20 just to be safe. And I started buying shares. I had some orders stacked in there that got filled.
So you're breaking up your orders over time on the in and the out.
Yes.
Like, so what percent?
I'm taking it on the way down about half, and then when I see that it turns and it takes out the open. It's not it's
So this is Tom's 102,000 shares on that block right there.
Yeah. Okay. I want to see it take out the open, and then as soon as it took out the open, I bought another chunk.
Okay.
And then it surged, and then I took 2/3 of it off on that bar up through 23 at about 20.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
You took off into that. Okay.
Yeah, and then I just held, and then it formed
a
really
nice
pattern.
consolidation.
And so I added back, and then it surged up through 25. I took some more off, and then I actually got a little bit more. The rest of it out around 27, and then I just said good enough.
Did you revisit it later in the day or no?
I did not. I saw it later in the day. You see those two little highs there underneath 25. Underneath 25.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah,
right here. It was trying to come through again.
But it was in the middle of the market day. I didn't like the way the futures were acting quite as much, and it never broke through it. So I was kind of waiting to see if it plowed through those two, and it didn't. So what is this, a 5 minute or?
It's a 5 minute,
yeah.
5 minute, yeah.
And so
I think that's beautiful, Tom. And that just goes to show there's so many different ways to trade. So day traders get a bad rap. You're reducing your risk. At the end of the day, you don't have any gap down risk. You can go home and do whatever you want. You know,
so that was kind of that was sort of my specialty play of the day, and everything else was AMD was a huge position for me. DraftKings was I played that early, and Love, and those were my three really big ones. Go back to that Love chart real quick 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
I can show you the stuff that it is just.
And I want to get it. No problem. I want to get into the psychology just because I know you have to run. So,
but I want you to see those. The trading could be as simple as this. Like I don't need any moving averages or anything. You draw a line straight across from that early high at around 24. No, up on the chart.
Yeah,
draw it right around there. Keep drawing it. Keep drawing that bitch. There you go, all the way across. Okay, so that early high, once it explodes and gets clear distance away from it, first test of that level almost always gets a response. You don't know how big the response is, but it always gets a response. And it's a great trade. It's a great trade. Look at it. It bounced. It was probably 50 to 75 cents in a matter of 2 minutes. And it's scalping to a certain degree, but a lot of times they will show that support. And so you look at it, and then now you find those two lows that are made right there. And then when it comes back up and tries to get through there again, now it's resistance. And so it just –
it just became resistance later in the day, and then
you look at Nvidia on a daily on a 5 minute chart. It's the same stuff.
Yeah. It's just a beautiful thing, like Mike said. It's just different time frame. That's all. It's
Netflix. One of my best trades of the quarter was in Netflix off of the daily chart that had the exact same setup. Like
before I forget,
395. I mean, it just came down.
Before I forget, sorry, Mike, is with the 10-week, would O'Neill take profits when it got extended? I know you talk about support on the 10-week.
No, unless it was a climax. That's what separates him out from Irusha, from me, from everyone else, is that anyone else that I've ever seen trade, and I've seen a lot of great traders, that he would let a frickin' profit run. And then, they wouldn't all work out if it ended up closing below the 10-week line.
So like that's where a Twilio, like this is the 10-week here.
He wouldn't be trading it. I'm trading it. I know. But he wouldn't.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, when it just gets so, like there's just a huge, visually, I call it visually extended. You can use Fibonacci's, whatever. Like he wouldn't take, just hypothetically, if this was a, eBay, he wouldn't take profits when it got.
No, because see, we have these very specific rules called climax rules, and that happens when you're 18 weeks out of
I'm not
a
supposed to make a
base.
joke on that right now.
There's
I should
definitely a
not
climax.
touch that.
It's such
correct?
a climax.
I just want to
see. This is
I
why
just wanna
Tom and
make-
I are a great team
I
because you
just
said
want to make
Where we
sure
get in
climax.
trouble,
that
Mike. This is where we get in
just
trouble.
out of respect for MarketSmith and IBD,
You said
that I should
climax,
not
and Tom and I
make
instantly turned
any
into
kind of
12-year-olds. We
gestures.
instantly turned into juveniles because he's like, it's like Beavis and Butthead. He said climax.
Oh God!
It's
It's a
like-
I haven't thought of climax that way in like 20 years. Okay.
And that's your problem, Mike.
Right. And Tom and I are 12 years old. So go ahead.
We're both, we're
So-
both so there. We're knee deep in it.
So, anyways, the thing is, we have very specific rules, and that's not in a position to use them, and because it's very early on in a move. And so,
Okay.
what happens is a climax is what happens after a stock has been running for a while, then gets overheated.
Third,
And it's
fourth
the same-
stage,
Yeah.
stage climax.
Right.
And the
Fine.
same thing that what Tom is looking at on an intraday, I could see someone saying, well, why are you looking at a 5-minute chart? He would call me up and say, hey, Mike, pull up the 5-minute chart. Not acting on it. He's tape reading, just like Livermore,
Right.
the greatest of all time, was tape reading. Doesn't mean you have to act on it. It means you're getting that feedback and saying, is my stock acting right or not? Tom is acting on it and taking it a little bit here, a little bit there, and not holding it overnight. And we're looking at it saying, hey, is this acting right or not?
All right, that's cool. All right, well, I want to close with psychology because Tom will definitely love this
Arusha
part.
is going to get yanked. I can feel it.
I
can
gotta-
see
I
there's
gotta go
someone right
too.
there.
Yeah.
No, we got to run really quick. Or you want to talk about that? You want to save it for another time?
We can talk psychology another time. I mean,
Okay,
like,
because this will
I'm
open up a
all
whole-
7 other episodes that pretty much, rip the shit out of psychology and kind of cover a lot of things.
I know. 'cause
Yeah.
we can get into that.
And just so you know, I'm going out to my favorite Mexican restaurant now that's been closed during this whole time, and this is their
Nice.
first opening. So
Oh.
I've been polite, Arusha. I've seen you.
Arusha's like texting.
Arusha.
Where are you going? I might join you there. Where are you going?
Well, this is tape. So the Riviera Mexican in Redondo is the best. Best
all
salsa.
all your fans are going to be there.
Arusha, do you live near Mike?
Yeah, we
you're-
live pretty close.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
You're
Hey, all
not
right. So
coming,
you know,
dude.
we'll save the
Unless you
music.
buy
I might come. I might. Yeah,
We'll
you may
save
see.
the music. We'll save the psychology. For another time because I can't tell you how much we appreciate this because I'm sitting here taking
Amazing.
notes. So I don't care if anyone else liked this because I'm taking notes. So it's all about
Thanks
me.
for having us. It was
Yeah, this is
it was an
awesome, man.
honor.
That's so
We'll
much
do it
Thank you.
again.
Yeah.
Maybe we do it once a month or something where we just go over
Yeah,
all
we can
kinds
look at
of
more
shit.
charts.
Yeah,
We can look
this
at more
is great.
charts next time. I want Mike to pull up his charts next time because
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
more
watch
interested.
the master at
You're
work.
asking me what I like. I'm like, what do you care what I like? I want to know what you like.
Because then they can be TradeStation charts, and we can work on trying to get a sponsorship from TradeStation. See if we can
Look,
spin
TradeStation
that.
is a great platform. I've been using it for
I use it too.
since
Yeah.
1998, and I couldn't trade without our stuff and that's more of searching for stocks and reading the weekly charts. But for monitoring throughout the day, I can't live without TradeStation, and they don't pay me a dime either.
No.
There you go. Guys, I can't thank you enough. I've learned a lot. It's been a lot of fun. We definitely have to do this again soon.
All
That
right,
was great. Thanks for having
thanks,
me.
man.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Great
Can
seeing
we
you,
play the
boys.
music on the way
Definitely.
out?
Yeah,
A
play the
little
music
later.
on the way out.
On the
Finish
way
us up.
out.
Wrap us up.
On the
Get us
way
some
out.
closure, baby. Come on.
All right, here we go.
There it is.
There we go.
We got a second.
God, that sounds horrible, man.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks.
All right, see you guys.
See you.